The glass shattered across the marble floor of the most expensive private school in Manhattan. Everyone froze. Two 8-year-old girls stood in the hallway, their designer uniforms perfectly pressed, their faces blank as stone. The principal was on her knees, crying, her hands shaking as she picked up pieces of her late mother's vase. It was the fourth principal in 6 months. The teachers had already walked out. Security guards refused to work another day. These weren't just difficult children. They were destroying every adult who tried to help them. Their father, Richard Sterling, one of the richest men in America, stood at the end of the hallway, his face buried in his hands. He had hired the best nannies, the most expensive therapists, the strictest teachers. Nothing worked. His daughters, Emma and Lily, had become unreachable, and no one knew why. But in exactly 30 days, everything would change because of a man no one expected. A man who wore a janitor's uniform and carried pain deeper than anyone could see. Richard Sterling had everything except the one thing that mattered. His penthouse overlooked Central Park. His company was worth billions. But when he looked at his twin daughters, he saw strangers. 2 years ago, their mother, Sarah, had died suddenly from a heart condition no one saw coming. She had been the warmth in their home, the laughter in every room, the one who tucked the girls in every single night with stories and songs. When she died, something inside Emma and Lily died too. They stopped talking to their father. They stopped smiling. They stopped being children. Richard tried everything. He bought them anything they wanted. He hired people to make them happy. But the girls only grew colder, angrier, more destructive. They broke things on purpose. They made teachers cry. They pushed away anyone who tried to get close. The school called it behavioral issues. Therapists called it trauma response. But Richard just called it his failure as a father. He was drowning in guilt, working 18-hour days to avoid going home to the silence, to the empty chairs at the dinner table, to the bedroom doors that stayed locked. He had money to solve any problem in the world except the one breaking his heart every single day. Then came the call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning, and Richard was in a board meeting when his phone wouldn't stop ringing. The school, again. When he arrived, he found his daughters sitting outside the principal's office, their faces emotionless, their hands folded. The principal, Mrs. Chun, was the 6th one that year. She looked exhausted. She told Richard that Emma had locked a teacher in a storage closet for 2 hours. Lily had poured paint all over another student's project on purpose. They had done it together, planned it, executed it without a single word to each other, like they shared one dark mind. Mrs. Chun said she couldn't do this anymore. No one could. The school board wanted the girls expelled. Richard felt his chest tighten. He looked at his daughters, these 2 beautiful little girls who looked exactly like their mother, and he didn't recognize them. He didn't know how to reach them. He didn't know how to fix this. That's when Mrs. Chun said something that seemed impossible. She said there was one person who might be able to help. A janitor. A man named Marcus Webb. Richard almost laughed. A janitor? But Mrs. Chun wasn't joking. She explained that Marcus had been working at the school for only 3 weeks, but something about him was different. The troubled kids, the ones everyone avoided, they didn't run from Marcus. They didn't act out around him. She had seen it herself. A boy who threw tantrums every day sat quietly helping Marcus sort recycling. A girl who refused to speak to anyone had a full conversation with him while he mopped the cafeteria. Mrs. Chun didn't understand it, but she trusted it. She said if anyone could reach Emma and Lily, maybe it was him. Richard felt desperate enough to try anything. That afternoon, he met Marcus Webb in the school's basement storage room. Marcus was 42 years old, tall and thin, with kind eyes that looked like they had seen too much pain. He wore a simple blue janitor's uniform with his name stitched on the pocket. Richard tried to explain the situation, tried to offer him money, tried to make it sound professional. But Marcus just looked at him and said 6 words that stopped Richard cold. He said, "I lost my daughter too." The room went silent. Marcus didn't explain right away. He just kept organizing supplies, his hands steady, his voice calm. Then he told Richard his story. 5 years ago, Marcus had a daughter named Grace. She was 7 years old, full of life, full of light. His wife had left them when Grace was a baby, so it was just the 2 of them against the world. Marcus worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat, but he was there for every bedtime, every scraped knee, every bad dream. Grace was his everything. Then one winter night, she got sick. It seemed like a normal flu at first, but it wasn't. By the time they got to the hospital, it was too late. Bacterial meningitis. She died in his arms, her little hand holding his finger, her eyes looking at him like he could save her. But he couldn't. After she died, Marcus lost everything. He lost his apartment because he couldn't work. He lost himself because he couldn't breathe without her. For 2 years, he lived in his car, moving from parking lot to parking lot, drowning in grief so deep, he didn't think he'd ever surface. He didn't want to, but then one day he was parked outside a school, watching kids play at recess, and he saw a little girl sitting alone on a bench, crying. And something in him woke up. He realized that even though he couldn't save Grace, maybe he could help other children who were hurting. So he got clean. He got help. He found this job. And every single day he showed up for the kids no one else saw. Richard felt tears burning his eyes. He hadn't cried in 2 years, but hearing Marcus's story broke something open inside him. He asked Marcus why he was telling him this. Marcus looked at him and said, "Because your daughters aren't broken, Mr. Sterling. They're scared. They lost the person who made them feel safe, and now they're testing everyone to see if anyone will stay. They're pushing people away before people can leave them first. I did the same thing after Grace died. I pushed everyone away because I couldn't survive losing anyone else. Your girls are surviving the only way they know how." Richard felt his throat tighten. He asked Marcus if he really thought he could help. Marcus didn't promise anything. He just said, "I can try. I can show up. I can stay." That's all any kid really needs. Someone who stays. Richard hired him that same day, not as a janitor, but as a family helper, someone to be around the house, to just be present. He didn't tell the girls why Marcus was there. He just introduced him as someone who would be helping around the house. Emma and Lily didn't even look at him. The first week was brutal. Emma and Lily ignored Marcus completely. They walked past him like he was invisible. They broke things in front of him to see if he'd yell. They spilled juice on the floor he had just cleaned to see if he'd quit. But Marcus didn't react. He didn't yell. He didn't lecture. He didn't even seem upset. He just cleaned up quietly, humming old songs under his breath, going about his work like their chaos didn't bother him at all. At night, Richard would ask Marcus if he was okay, if this was too much. But Marcus always said the same thing. He said, "They're not trying to hurt me. They're trying to see if I'm safe." One morning, Emma snuck into the kitchen early and found Marcus making breakfast. She stood in the doorway watching him. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge her, just kept cooking. After a few minutes, he said, "Your mom used to make pancakes on Sundays, didn't she?" Emma froze. No one had talked about her mom in months. Everyone avoided it like it was a forbidden topic. But Marcus said it so gently, so naturally, like it was okay to remember. Emma whispered, "How did you know?" Marcus smiled softly and said, "Your dad told me. He said she made them in the shape of animals." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "She made mine into butterflies." Marcus nodded. He said, "I bet they were beautiful, just like you." Emma ran out of the room, but Marcus knew something had shifted. If you're watching this and feeling something in your chest right now, that ache that reminds you we all carry pain, we all need kindness, then you're in the right place. This is Humanity Tales Studio, where we share stories that remind us what it means to be human. Stories that make us believe in second chances, in healing, in love that doesn't give up. If this story is touching your heart, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because we bring you a new story every single week that will make you feel, make you think, and make you believe in people again. Now, let's get back to Marcus and these two little girls who were about to teach the world what redemption really looks like. Days passed, and slowly, quietly, Emma started appearing wherever Marcus was. She didn't talk to him, but she watched him. She watched him fix a broken chair in the dining room. She watched him water the plants on the balcony. She watched him fold laundry in the hallway. One afternoon, Marcus was sitting on the floor fixing a toy train that had been broken for months, one the girls used to play with before their mom died. Emma sat down across from him, silent. Marcus handed her a tiny screwdriver and said, "I could use some help." Emma hesitated, then took it. They worked together in silence for 20 minutes. When the train finally rolled across the floor, Emma smiled. It was small, barely there, but it was real. Marcus saw it and felt his heart crack open. That night, Emma asked Marcus a question that broke him. She asked, "Do you think my mom can see me?" Marcus looked at this little girl, so small, so scared, carrying a grief too big for her body, and he told her the truth. He said, "I don't know for sure, but I talk to my daughter every day. I tell her about my life. I tell her I miss her, and I feel her with me. Maybe your mom is the same way. Maybe she's so proud of you, even when you're hurting." Emma started crying, the kind of crying that comes from a place too deep for words. Marcus didn't move toward her. He just stayed close and said, "It's okay to miss her. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. You don't have to be strong all the time." Emma whispered, "Everyone wants me to be okay." Marcus shook his head. He said, "I just want you to be honest. That's enough." Lily was harder. She stayed distant, cold, watching Marcus with suspicion. She saw her sister softening, and it made her angry. One day, she confronted Marcus in the hallway and said, "You're going to leave. Everyone leaves." Marcus stopped and looked at her, really looked at her. He said, "You're right. People do leave. Sometimes they don't have a choice. Your mom didn't want to leave you. My daughter didn't want to leave me, but they did, and it's not fair." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed hard. She said, "So why should I trust you?" Marcus knelt down to her level and said, "Because I'm still here. Because I'm going to keep showing up, even when you push me away. Because I know what it's like to be so scared of losing someone that you try to lose them first. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work. It just makes the loneliness bigger." Lily stared at him, her jaw tight. Then she whispered, "I don't know how to stop being angry." Marcus's voice was so gentle it was almost a whisper. He said, "You don't have to stop. You just have to let someone carry it with you." Lily broke. She collapsed into Marcus's arms and sobbed, and he held her like she was his own, like she mattered, like her pain mattered. Richard stood at the end of the hallway, watching, tears streaming down his face. For the first time in 2 years, he saw his daughters feeling something other than rage. He saw them being held. He saw them being seen. Over the next few weeks, something beautiful started happening. Emma and Lily began talking again, not just to Marcus, but to each other, to their father, to their teachers. They started laughing. They started playing. They started being kids again. Marcus didn't do anything magical. He didn't have a degree or a special method. He just showed up every single day with patience, with presence, with the kind of love that doesn't demand anything in return. He taught them that grief doesn't mean you're broken. He taught them that anger is just love with nowhere to go. He taught them that it's okay to remember their mom, to talk about her, to miss her out loud. He helped them plant a garden on the balcony in her honor, flowers she used to love. He sat with them while they wrote letters to her, things they never got to say. He showed them that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means making space for both the pain and the love. And slowly, the girls became whole again. Not perfect, not without hard days, but whole, alive, human. One evening, Richard found Marcus on the balcony, looking out at the city. Richard sat beside him and said, "I don't know how to thank you." Marcus shook his head. He said, "You don't have to thank me. You gave me something too. You let me be a father again, even if it's not the same. You let me pour the love I still have for Grace into your girls. That's a gift." Richard wiped his eyes and said, "I was so busy trying to fix them, I forgot to just love them." Marcus smiled. He said, "That's what grief does. It makes us forget we're allowed to feel anything else. But your girls are teaching you the same thing they taught me. That love doesn't end. It just changes shape." Richard asked, "What do I do now?" Marcus said, "You keep showing up. You keep being honest. You keep letting them see you're hurting too. Because they need to know their father is human, not perfect. They need to know you're healing with them, not ahead of them." 3 months later, Emma and Lily stood in front of their school at an assembly. They had volunteered to speak about kindness and loss, something they never would have done before. Emma held the microphone, her voice shaking but strong. She said, "We lost our mom and we thought we lost everything. We were so angry, we hurt people. We pushed everyone away because we thought if we didn't care, it wouldn't hurt so much. But it just made everything worse. Then someone showed up who didn't try to fix us. He just stayed. He listened. He cared. And he taught us that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to miss someone. It's okay to need help." Lily took the microphone next. She said, "His name is Marcus and he's our friend. He's not our dad. He's not replacing anyone. But he's teaching us that love doesn't run out. That there's enough room in our hearts for the people we lost and the people who are here now. And he's teaching us that being kind doesn't mean you're not hurting. It means you're brave enough to let people in anyway. The entire auditorium stood and clapped. Teachers crying, parents wiping their eyes. Richard stood in the back, his heart so full he thought it might burst. Marcus stood beside him, quiet as always. Richard whispered, "You saved them." Marcus shook his head one last time. He said, "No, they saved me." This story reminds us that the people who heal us are often the ones carrying their own wounds. That kindness isn't about having all the answers. It's about showing up, staying present, and making someone feel less alone. Marcus didn't have wealth or power or status. He had loss. He had pain. He had empathy born from his own brokenness. And that's what made him exactly who Emma and Lily needed. Because sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is not our strength, but our honesty about our weakness. Not our solutions, but our willingness to sit in the pain with them. Not our words, but our presence. Richard learned that being a good father didn't mean being perfect. It meant being real, being vulnerable, being willing to heal alongside his daughters instead of pretending he had it all together. The girls learned that grief doesn't make you unlovable, that anger is a shield, not a weapon, that the people who truly care don't leave when things get hard. And Marcus, he learned that the love he had for his daughter didn't die with her. He just found new ways to live, through kindness, through service, through showing up for children who needed exactly what he needed when his world fell apart. Someone who stayed. If the story moved you, if it reminded you that broken people can become healers, that pain can become purpose, that love never really ends, then do me a favor. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling us about a time someone showed up for you when you needed it most. Or tell us about a time you showed up for someone else. Because these stories matter. They remind us that we're not alone, that our struggles have meaning, that our kindness creates ripples we may never see but that change lives in ways we can't imagine. And please, subscribe to Humanity Tales Studio if you haven't already. Every week, we bring you real stories about real people doing extraordinary things. Not because they're perfect, but because they're human. Because they choose love over fear. Because they choose to show up even when it's hard. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a story that might be exactly what your heart needs to hear. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing that humanity is still good, still kind, still worth fighting for. And remember, you never know whose life you might change just by being present, by being honest, by being you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stay.